The days grew slower, the air colder. My body weakened, but my mind grew sharper, clearer than ever before. I knew my time was not far, but instead of fear, I felt a strange strength. One afternoon, I saw my son again. He entered the nursing home with the same stiff smile, his wife trailing behind him. He carried another folder, and I knew what it held. More papers, more greed. "Ma," he began, his voice tired of patience, "you need to stop resisting. Just sign. Don't make this harder for us." I looked at him steadily, my eyes no longer trembling. "Harder for you. You left me here in the rain. You called me a burden. And still, I carry your name. Tell me, Beta, what is heavier, the weight of an old mother, or the weight of betraying her?" He shifted uncomfortably, but I pressed on. "You want my house? You will have it. You want freedom from me? You will have it. But you will never escape what I leave behind." He frowned, confused, as I reached beneath my pillow and pulled out the sealed envelope. I placed it firmly in his hand. "What is this?" he asked. "My burden," I said. "The one you gave me, and now it is yours." He opened it right there, pulling out the notebook. Page after page of my handwriting stared back at him, every sacrifice, every night of hunger, every prayer, every humiliation, how I carried him when he was small, how I bled to keep him alive, how I sold my bangles to pay for his future, and then how he left me in the rain, how he called me a burden, how he tried to take my house. With each page, his face paled. His wife shifted nervously, her eyes darting to the nurses who had gathered quietly nearby. "This is your inheritance," I whispered. "Not my house, not my land. These words, this truth, this shame, you cannot sell it, you cannot hide it. It will follow you, heavier than any house you could ever own." Silence stretched. The other mothers in the hall watched, their eyes gleaming with a mixture of sorrow and pride. They knew, they understood. My son tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. His wife tugged at his arm, urging him to leave, but I raised my voice, louder than I had in years. "You called me a burden, but remember, it is not me who will carry the weight of abandonment. It is you. Until your last breath, you will remember this notebook. You will remember me." He turned away, clutching the envelope as if it burned his skin. Without another word, he left, his wife close behind him. The sound of their footsteps faded, but the weight of my words hung heavy in the air. I sank back on my cot, exhausted but at peace. I had given him my burden, not my body, not my needs, but the truth of his betrayal. That night, I whispered to my husband's photograph, "I am not erased. He will carry me now, heavier than ever before." The lamp flickered, and I closed my eyes, a faint smile on my lips. If you believe every child should carry respect for their mother, not guilt, please like, share, and comment respect. Let us make sure no mother is ever left in silence again. I thought being abandoned in a nursing home was the end of me. Instead, it became the beginning of his true burden. Because a house can be sold, money can be spent, but guilt never leaves. After my son left with those papers, a strange calm settled over me. For years, I had been silent. For years, I had carried every insult in my chest, every sacrifice in my bones. But now, something inside me shifted. He thought I was powerless. He thought I was blind and weak. He thought he could throw me here, steal my home, and walk away free. But he had forgotten who raised him. That evening, I walked slowly to the garden where the others sat. The grandmother with the cotton hair looked up as I joined her. Her eyes, though tired, still carried sparks of wisdom. "They want my house," I told her quietly. She nodded, as if she had already known. "That's why they leave us here. Not just because we're old, but because we're in the way of their greed." Her words pierced me. I sat in silence, but inside my mind, pieces began to come together. If he called me a burden, then I would show him what burden truly meant. Not the weight of my body, not the cost of my medicines, but the weight of guilt, the cost of betrayal. That night, I pulled out my small notebook, the same one where I wrote prayers and half-finished letters. By the light of the flickering lamp, I began to write again. I wrote every sacrifice, every hunger, every bangle sold, every night spent working so he could study. I wrote how he left me in the rain, called me a burden, tried to steal my house. Each word was a stone, and together they built a mountain. At the end, I wrote a single line, "This is the burden you gave me, and one day, it will return to you heavier than you can carry." The next morning, I asked the nurse for an envelope. She gave me one, puzzled, but said nothing. I slipped my notebook inside and sealed it shut. Later that day, I spoke to the manager of the home. I placed the envelope in his hands. "When my son comes again, I said, if anything happens to me, this must be sent to him. He looked at me closely, saw the fire in my eyes, and nodded. At night, I lay awake, planning. If my son wanted my house, he would have to carry my words too. If he wanted my silence, he would instead hear my voice louder than ever. He thought leaving me here freed him, but I was about to become the weight he could never put down. If you believe no mother should suffer in silence, please like and comment, respect. Let's carry her story so no child forgets what they— Oh. I pressed the sealed envelope to my chest before hiding it under my pillow. For the first time in weeks, I slept deeply, because now I was no longer just an abandoned mother. I was preparing the burden he would never escape. I thought his betrayal would end me. Instead, it gave me the power to end his peace. The next time my son came, it was not with fruit or polite smiles. He arrived, hurried, his shirt untucked, his forehead glistening with sweat. His wife followed close behind, carrying a neat brown envelope. "Ma," he said, his voice clipped, "we need you to sign some papers." I looked at him, my hands still holding the knitting needles I had been working with. "What papers?" His wife forced a smile. "Just some formalities. It will make things easier for all of us. Don't worry, it's nothing complicated." But I saw the glint in her eyes. The way she clutched the envelope too tightly. My stomach turned cold. He pulled out the papers and spread them across the small wooden table beside my cot. Words printed in heavy ink filled the page, but my old eyes blurred at the edges. All I could make out were numbers, signatures, property terms. "What is this?" I asked slowly. "Just routine," he said quickly. "If you sign, the house can officially be transferred. It will be safer this way. Don't make it difficult, Ma. Just sign." I felt my chest tighten. My house. The one my husband and I built brick by brick, stone by stone. The house where my son had once run barefoot, shouting with joy. The house where I had marked his height on the wall. Where my husband's voice still seemed to echo in the courtyard, and now he wanted me to sign it away. "For your comfort," he added, his tone sharp, "we'll take care of the rest. You won't have to worry about anything." I looked into his eyes. "So this is why you left me here. So you could take my house." His face hardened. "Don't talk like that. It's practical. You're old now. You don't need such a big place. We have children. We need the space, the money. Don't be selfish." Selfish. The word stung worse than burden. I had given him everything, my food, my youth, my strength. And now, because I wanted to hold on to the last piece of my life, I was selfish. I pushed the papers back. "No," I said, my voice trembling but firm. His wife's smile vanished. "Ma, don't be stubborn. It's just a signature. Everyone does this." But I shook my head. But not me." My son's jaw clenched. He leaned close, his voice low and angry. "You're making this harder than it has to be. Sign, or you'll regret it." The room spun around me, but I held my ground. I folded the papers slowly and slid them back into the envelope. "This house is mine," I whispered. "I built it with my hands. I will not sign it away while I breathe." His wife muttered something under her breath, but he pulled her arm and turned away. As they left, he looked back once, his eyes cold. "You're making a mistake, Ma." When the door closed, I sat in silence, the knitting needles falling from my hands. My chest ached, my body trembled, but my heart was steady. They thought I was too weak to resist, but they had forgotten that every wrinkle on my face carried the strength of battles they had never seen. If you believe no mother should be forced to sign away the home she built, please share this video. Let us protect the dignity of mothers everywhere. That night, I pressed my husband's photograph against my chest. "They want to erase me," I whispered, "but I will not let them. If I am a burden, then let me be the heaviest burden they ever carry." I thought his greed would break me. Instead, it gave me new strength. The night after I heard my son call me too costly, I could not sleep. I sat on my cot, turning the past over and over in my mind like worn beads of a rosary. Each memory cut me, but each also reminded me of what I had given gifts. My son now pretended had no value. I remembered the years when my husband fell sick. Medicines were expensive, and the doctor shook his head when I handed him only half the fee. So I sold my wedding bangles, one by one, until my wrists were bare. When people asked why I no longer wore jewelry, I smiled and told them, "A mother shines more in her children than in gold." I remembered the winters when blankets were few. I spread the thickest one over my son's small body, keeping only a thin sheet for myself. My bones shivered through the night, but when I saw him sleeping peacefully, my heart felt warm enough. I remembered the years of school. His uniform tore easily, knees always ripped from playing. I stitched each patch late at night, my fingers pricked and sore, when he asked for new shoes. I walked barefoot to the market for weeks until I had saved enough coins, and when he grew older, his dreams grew too. College fees, books, bus fares money, I did not have. Yet somehow, I scrubbed floors, washed clothes, stitched garments for neighbors. Some days I worked until my back burned with pain. I ate only once a day to stretch the rice longer. But I never let him see my hunger. Each sacrifice had been a brick in his future, and now, he measured me in bills and receipts, calling me a drain. I whispered into the darkness, without my sacrifices, you would not stand where you stand. Without my hunger, you would not be full. Without my sleepless nights, you would not rest easy now. And you dare to call me a burden? Tears slid down my cheeks, but I did not wipe them away. They were proof of my love, just as the cracks in my hands were proof of my work. In the courtyard the next morning, I spoke to the grandmother with cotton-white hair. She listened quietly as I poured out my memories. When I finished, she placed her hand on mine and said, "We gave away everything, thinking they would hold us forever, but they hold only our labor, not our hearts." Her words struck like thunder. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps my son carried only the fruit of my sacrifices, not the love behind them. Still, deep inside me, a new flame burned. If he thought my love could be discarded, if he thought my sacrifices could be reduced to numbers, he would learn. One day, he would carry the true weight of what he had abandoned. If you believe every sacrifice of a mother should be honored, not forgotten, comment, respect below. Let us remind the world that no price can measure a mother's love. That night, I placed my husband's photo against my heart and whispered, I gave everything. And still, I am called a burden. But this story is not over. He thinks he has freed himself of me. One day, he will see that mothers never disappear so easily. I thought sacrifice would earn me honor. Instead, sacrifice became invisible, forgotten beneath the weight of money. Days passed like shadows stretching across the courtyard, long and heavy. I learned the rhythm of the nursing home, the clang of plates at breakfast, the shuffle of slippers in the hallway, the nurses' tired voices reminding us to take our medicines. One afternoon, I walked slowly toward the office to ask for more wool for knitting. My hands, though stiff, still found comfort in weaving thread into patterns. But as I reached the doorway, I froze. Inside, I heard my son's voice. He stood with the manager, speaking in hushed but annoyed tones. "I'm already paying too much for her stay here," he said. "This place charges like it's a hotel. She doesn't need anything extra, just food and a bed. Why should I waste money on luxuries she won't even use?" The words hit me like stones. Too much, waste, luxuries. I pressed myself against the wall, holding my breath, listening. The manager replied softly, "Sir, it's the standard fee. We provide medical care, meals, and a safe place." Many families, my son cut him off. Yes, I know. But she's old. How long will she even live? Why should I keep spending? I have children of my own to think about. College, expenses. My mother can't drain us forever. My knees weakened, and I nearly dropped the ball of yarn in my hands. Drain us. That's what I had become in his eyes. Not a mother, not a blessing, but a drain. I leaned against the wall, whispering to myself, I gave him life. And now my life is too costly for him. Memories swirled before me. The times I patched his shoes instead of buying my own. The nights I worked with swollen fingers just to pay his school fees. The mornings I sent him off to college with ironed clothes and food in his bag. While I went hungry, did he forget it all so quickly? He stepped out of the office a few minutes later, his expression composed, his voice light as if nothing had been said. He didn't notice me in the corridor. I turned away before his eyes could meet mine, clutching the wool tight in my hands. That night, I could not eat. The lentils tasted of ashes. The bread stuck in my throat. I sat by the window of my room, staring at the apples he had left weeks earlier, now brown and withered in their box. He called my care too expensive, but what price could ever measure a mother's love? One of the other mothers noticed my silence. She touched my shoulder gently and said, "They count coins, not memories. That is why they can leave us here." Her words eased my tears, but they also sharpened my resolve. If he thought I was a burden, if he thought I was too costly, then one day he would learn the true weight of what he had thrown away. If you believe no mother's life should ever be measured in money, please share this story. Let the world remember that love cannot be counted in coins. I lay down that night with my husband's photograph beside me. In the dim glow of the lamp, I whispered, "Do you see him? Do you hear how he speaks of me? But don't worry, old friend. One day, he will understand what a real burden feels like. I thought his money would protect me instead. His money became the measure of my worth. The first month passed slowly, each day blurring into the next. Rain gave way to sunshine, and the nursing home garden filled with the smell of damp earth and wildflowers. I began to settle into a routine: meals at set times, short walks in the courtyard, whispered conversations with other mothers. And then, one afternoon, a nurse told me, "Your son is here to see you." My heart leaped before I could stop it. I smoothed my sari quickly, wiped my eyes with the corner of my paloo, and hurried to the visiting hall. For a moment, I was a girl again, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be loved. He was there, standing tall in his crisp shirt, his wife beside him in a silk sari, her perfume filling the air. He smiled at me, but it was the smile he used for strangers, not for a mother. "How are you, Ma?" he asked loudly, as though others needed to hear his words more than I needed to feel them. Before I could reply, his wife stepped in. "We hope the staff is treating you well. This place is very good. We chose it carefully." Her voice carried pride, not affection. As if they had done me a favor by locking me away here. I nodded quietly. "I am managing," I whispered. He glanced around at the nurses nearby, then leaned closer to me. "You must not cause trouble here, Ma. Don't make it difficult for them. Just be quiet." Okay. The word stung. Trouble. I was not his mother anymore. I was an obligation to be managed. He placed a small box on the table. Inside was fruit, apples polished to shine. He didn't peel one for me, didn't cut it. Just placed the box, as if that act alone proved his devotion. One of the nurses smiled politely. "Your son is very caring, madam. Not many come to visit." I forced a smile, but inside my heart crumbled. He wasn't here for me. He was here for the world to see, to prove to the staff, to his wife, perhaps even to himself, that he was a good son. But love cannot be measured by apples in a box. Love is peeling them, feeding them, sitting beside me long after the fruit is gone. The visit lasted no more than 20 minutes. He checked his watch twice. His wife tapped her phone often. When they rose to leave, he patted my hand lightly. "Take care, Ma. We'll come again next month." I wanted to scream, "I raised you every day, and you give me one visit a month." But the words died in my throat. I only nodded, my eyes fixed on the floor. After they left, the hall felt emptier than before. The apples sat untouched on the table. I carried them to my room, placed them beside my husband's photograph, and whispered, "Do you see, old friend? This is what our son has become. He brings fruit for show, but not for love." That night, I cried quietly into my pillow. The other mothers heard me but did not ask questions. They knew. They too had seen children who came only to sign papers, to smile for staff, to leave gifts as proof of duty rather than affection. We were not mothers anymore. We were obligations wrapped in wrinkled skin. If you believe love is more than gifts and appearances, like this video and comment, respect. A mother deserves presence, not performance. I thought his visit would heal me. Instead, it deepened the wound. The day they left me at the nursing home, the sky was heavy with rain. Water dripped from the edges of the roof as I clutched my small cloth bag, the only luggage I had carried. Inside were a few saris, a comb, and the framed photograph of my husband, nothing more. My son stood beside me, impatient. His wife tapped her phone, barely glancing up. When the warden came to welcome us, my son's words cut deeper than the rain. "This is my mother," he said. "She's old now, and it's difficult for us to manage her at home. She'll be better off here. We can't handle the burden anymore." Burden? That was the word he used for me. I froze, the sound of it echoing in my ears like thunder. A burden, not a mother, not a woman who had given her life for him, just a weight to be dropped in a corner. The warden smiled politely, but her eyes softened with pity. She guided me inside, her hand gentle on my arm. My son pressed the warden's palm with money, whispered a few words, and turned away without even looking back. I wanted to call out his name, just once. I wanted him to look at me, to remember who I was. But he walked quickly to his car, his wife at his side, and drove away, through the iron gate. I saw only the red glow of the taillights disappearing into the rain. The nursing home smelled of medicine and boiled rice. The hallways were lined with quiet faces. Men and women staring blankly at the walls, their eyes cloudy with years of abandonment. Some whispered to themselves, others simply sat with folded hands, as if waiting for a bus that would never arrive. A nurse showed me my bed, a narrow cot near a window. The sheets were thin, and the blankets smelled of dampness. I placed my bag on the table, my photograph of my husband beside it. I sat down. My body heavy but my soul heavier. Burden, that word would not leave me. I thought of the years when my son was small. How I carried him on my back when he was too tired to walk. I thought of the nights I stayed awake, nursing his fevers, whispering prayers until the morning light came. I thought of the times I went hungry so he could eat. And now he called me a burden. I turned my face to the window. Outside, rain lashed against the glass, blurring the world. My reflection stared back at me. An old woman with tired eyes and gray hair tied back. Was this truly all I was now? A burden to be left behind. If this moment broke your heart as it broke mine, please subscribe. No mother should ever be abandoned in the name of being a burden. The bed creaked under my weight as I lay down, my heart pounding with grief. But even as I closed my eyes, one thought remained clear. He had called me a burden. And one day, I would show him what a real burden felt like. The first nights in the nursing home were the hardest. The mattress sagged beneath me, the thin blanket barely warmed my bones, and the hum of the ceiling fan echoed like a restless ghost. Sleep came in broken fragments, filled with dreams of my son's voice repeating the word "burden" in the mornings. The nurses walked through the halls, their shoes squeaking on the floor. They spoke kindly, but their kindness was the kind one gives to the helpless, not the loved. Meals were simple watery porridge, a spoon of lentils, a thin slice of bread. I ate in silence, sitting among others who also carried the same hollow look in their eyes. I began to notice them faces lined with years of sacrifice, hands worn from decades of work, eyes dimmed by betrayal. Each person there carried a story, though most no longer spoke it aloud. One woman sat near the garden window every morning, clutching a faded baby blanket. She rocked back and forth, humming lullabies to a child long grown and gone. Another man shuffled slowly along the corridor, his back bent, whispering the names of children who never came to visit. And there was an older grandmother with hair as white as cotton, who told me quietly one evening, "My son left me here the day his wife said I was eating too much of their food. They called me a burden too." Her words broke something inside me. We were not strangers, here we were mirrors of each other, each abandoned in the name of convenience. I sat with her often, listening to her stories. She spoke of her sacrifices, her dreams, her disappointments. And every time, I heard echoes of my own life. We were mothers who had given everything. And yet, when our hair turned gray and our bodies slowed, we became unwanted weights. But in that nursing home, we became family. We shared our pain with one another, stitching together broken hearts with threads of understanding. Still, the silence of my own nights was unbearable. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, whispering my husband's name. "Do you see this?" I asked the shadows. "Do you see what our son has done?" He called me a burden, as though love was a debt, as though years of sacrifice could be erased with one cruel word. I thought of the times I had carried him in my arms, his small body feverish against my chest. I thought of the nights I stayed awake sewing clothes to buy his schoolbooks. I thought of how proudly I had sent him to university, even when I went without new shoes for years. And now, here I was discarded like an old object no longer useful. One evening, I joined the others in the garden. The air was cool, and the sky blazed with orange as the sun sank. We sat together in silence, broken only by the cries of crows returning to their nests. The grandmother with the cotton hair leaned closer to me and said, "They call us burdens, but they forget we carried their burdens first. Every hunger, every sickness, every struggle they survived because of us." Her words struck deep. She was right. We had carried them all our lives, and now they dared to call us heavy. That night, lying on my narrow cot, I felt something stir inside me. Anger. Not loud or wild, but steady and sharp. He had left me here thinking he was free, but one day, he would learn that abandoning a mother is not freedom. It is the heaviest burden of all. If you believe no mother should ever be abandoned in a nursing home against her will, share this story. Let the world remember the sacrifices that children forget. I closed my eyes, my fists clenched against the blanket. The word burden still echoed in my ears, but it no longer broke MIT, fueled me. I thought being left here would silence me. Instead, it gave me a voice I had never used before.